I'm very happy to be here today. Thanks to the organizer for inviting me to present my company. This company is called OncoHeros Biosciences. We are a biotech company specifically focused on drug discovery and drug development for childhood cancer indication. This is really a mission-driven company. It's a company that was set up by parents that were touched by childhood cancer, like myself, that really were determined to change the outcome for children with cancer and provide better therapeutic options for these patients. My background is in molecular cell biologist. I'm a scientist. I've been working in drug discovery and development for more than 20 years, first in research position and then in business development position. And I'm the chief operating officer and co-founder of OncoHeros Biosciences. First of all, just the background on pediatric oncology. Childhood cancer in children is a rare disease, but still is the major cause of death by disease in most parts of the world, certainly in Europe and North America. Every 3 minutes, a child is diagnosed with cancer somewhere out there in the world, and cancer claims the life of more than 90,000 children and adolescents every year. I like to post this photo just to put things in perspective. Why Neil Armstrong? Why the man landing on the moon? Everybody knows the story of Neil Armstrong, but probably very few people know the fact that Neil Armstrong had a daughter that died of brain cancer in 1962. Now, the problem is that there were no treatment options for Neil Armstrong's daughter in 1962 for that specific type of brain cancer, and there are no options today. So some things really never change. We haven't seen for some types of cancer really substantial improvement in therapeutic options and survival. And why is that? So pediatric cancers are different from cancers occurring in adults. We have a high percentage of leukemias, brain tumors, and very specific sarcomas in children and adolescents. As you can imagine, industry is very much focused on adult indication. Pharma companies, biotech companies are generally developing drugs for adult cancer indications. And as a result, over the past 20, 30 years, only 4 specific drugs have been developed and approved specifically to treat childhood cancer. So there's a clear and urgent need. All the clinicians, pediatric oncologists are clear that we can save more lives only if we get better treatment for children and adolescents. And so this was really the idea of setting up this company to change the landscape for pediatric oncology patients. Myself on the right, unfortunately, I lost my first child to cancer in 2006. The other co-founder and CEO of the company is Ricardo Garcia, who's a serial entrepreneur. His son is a survivor of brain cancer. And we decided to join forces and get people from the industry to set up this company. We think this is the right momentum. There's the right time to set up a biotech company in the pediatric oncology space. Clearly, there are interesting incentives for orphan drug development on top of the normal orphan drug designation, which has been around for many years. Now we have FDA priority review vouchers that are given to companies that get drugs approved for rare pediatric diseases. These vouchers have a value that can be traded, that can be sold to third parties. So they constitute interesting financial incentives. There's also a changing landscape in pediatric oncology with approval of the RACE Act, which became operational this August. So the FDA in the US may require pediatric studies from companies that are probably developing drugs for adult cancer indication whenever these drugs may have the same mechanism of action in childhood cancer. So we can see more and more companies move into the pediatric oncology space. We thought that this could create sort of interesting partnership, co-development opportunities with OncoHeros. So we thought that this is really the right time. And also, as you can imagine, as the public opinion is mounting, there are more calls for more investment in childhood cancer. There will be more funds available in Europe, for example. So it's really the right time. So we are really excited to start this company. We're also very much connected with the pediatric oncology community. Accelerate is a key meeting, which happens every year in Brussels, we've been part of this dialogue since inception in 2011. So we're really very well connected with key opinion leaders, and this is really important because we have these dialogues with industry professionals, regulators, academics, and really understand what are the key priorities, what are really the key drugs, the key agents, the key targets that needs to be addressed in pediatric oncology, and really focus on the best programs. We put together a very strong team of people, with more than 20 years of experience in pharma company, biotech company. I'm not going to go over all the names one by one, excuse me, but you can see that there are very, very, very strong people. We also put together a very strong scientific advisory board, pediatric oncologists from across the world, experts on different pediatric cancers in Europe and US. And so we're really counting on the opinion of key opinion leaders. So really the corporate goals of OncoHeros Biosciences is really to become worldwide leader in pediatric oncology. We believe we are the only company which is 100% focused on pediatric oncology drug development. So we really want to become the leader in this space, and also we want to become the partner of choice for companies that may be interested in licensing agreements, co-development agreements. For example, we are contacted pretty much on a regular basis by biotech companies that are developing drugs for adult indications, but they would be interested in a partnership for pediatrics because they believe their compound may have really a strong potential for pediatric oncology drug development, but they wouldn't have the resources, the expertise to run a pediatric study. And so we're having interesting discussions with these companies. And also we would like to involve patients association foundations. Foundations have been traditionally very much investing in childhood cancer research, mainly at academic level. We would like sort of to break the status quo, so to speak, and also invite foundations to also invest in a company like OncoHeros that could really advance the development of better treatments for children. As a matter of fact, we have received funding already for a number of foundations. The main one is the National Foundation for Cancer Research in the US, which is one of the biggest non-profits in the oncology space. Well, this is just mainly for investors, but basically, so we are talking about a niche market. Clearly, we are a mission-driven company. Myself and the other co-founders are not really doing this because we want to get rich and generate a lot of money for ourselves, but we want to be in a position where we generate value for our patients. But in doing so, we need to be able to generate value for investors. And we believe that we have the right mix for this. We intend to take advantage of the financial incentives. And we are really very ambitious. We want to take the drugs to the market ourselves, market the drugs, and distribute the drugs with partners through our connections with the pediatric oncology networks. We think this is doable in pediatric oncology. And also we are open to sub-licensing deals for assets that we may own that may have also adult cancer indications. Because as I said, we're 100% focused on pediatric cancer. We don't want to invest our resources in adult cancer drug development. And so the snapshot of the company, I didn't say before, but we are a Boston company. We're a US company. We are a typical biotech company. We have also a presence in Europe. We have a drug discovery lab in Barcelona. And this is really characterizes our strategy because with the drug discovery lab in Barcelona, we want to develop our own IP. We want to produce preclinical candidates, and they can be further characterized and then presented as clinical candidates for further development. So we have a lab where we are setting up technology collaborations with the European and US companies. But in parallel, we also want to identify interesting licensing opportunities. We want to license or co-develop assets that may be sitting around in academia, in the industry pipeline. For example, we are also interested in compounds that have been discontinued from adult development, but still have the potential to be developed as drugs for specific pediatric cancer. So this is really a snapshot of the company. And when we look for in-licensing opportunities, we have really very clear criteria based on the connections we have with the pediatric oncology community, the knowledge of the pediatric oncology space. Really, we want to go for unmet medical needs. We want to identify opportunities in cancer that are really difficult to treat, where there's a potential to make an impact. And also because I think if there's an high unmet medical need, it is expected to be easier to set up a clinical trials to involve patients, to involve clinicians. But also we want to work on very well-validated targets at this stage. We don't want to go for something which is not really very well validated, and we have a long list of targets that are really key priority for pediatric oncology. And so, of course, we are very well supported by key opinion leaders and try to identify something which is de-risked as much as possible. So we're interested in clinical or near clinical stage asset that we can push through to the clinic as quick as possible. The first asset we license in our pipeline is an asset for rhabdomyosarcoma. Rhabdomyosarcoma is a type of sarcoma typical of younger age, of children and adolescents. It's a small indication, but just to give an idea, there are about 400 patients every year in the US. So you can extrapolate the numbers for Europe, and it's a very difficult cancer to target, and particularly in the most aggressive form, there's a lack of suitable therapeutic options for these patients. And we identify an interesting compound, which is volasertib. Volasertib is a polo-like 1 or PLK1 inhibitor that was being developed by Boehringer Ingelheim for a form of leukemia in adults. Sadly, the compound was discontinued by BI after an unsatisfactory phase 3 trial. But the interesting thing is that as part of the regulatory obligations, the company completed phase 1 pediatric studies. And we thought that this was really a good opportunity for us. It was a compound sitting on the shelves of a big pharma company that had already pediatric phase 1 data. So we had clear indications about the safety, tolerability. We have a recommended phase 2 dose for this compound in children. But also it was really generating very interesting data in rhabdomyosarcoma. And these data were generated by several groups in Europe, the Pediatric Oncology Network called ITCC. It's a network of more than 40 research centers and hospitals in Europe. What they do on a routine basis, they screen for compounds in the industry pipeline, trying to find interesting clinical candidates for pediatric oncology clinical studies. And so they generated over the years interesting data with volasertib in rhabdomyosarcoma. And I just would like to give you a few snapshots of these data that led us to be interested in this compound. First of all, PLK1 it is a kinase that is involved in a number of cancers. So there are a few PLK1 inhibitors in the development pipeline by different companies. In the case of rhabdomyosarcoma, it's clearly associated with poor prognosis in this disease. It was shown that high level of PLK1 expression are correlated with the low survival in this disease. But the very interesting thing is that there seems to be a very specific mechanism of action of PLK1 inhibition in rhabdomyosarcoma. Rhabdomyosarcoma is very much driven by a fusion protein, which is called PAX3-FOXO1. This fusion protein is very difficult to target because it's not a canonical kinase or receptor. It's very difficult to target with an inhibitor. However, it was shown that PLK1 is a kinase that stabilizes this protein. So by inhibiting PLK1 with volasertib, you cause the degradation of this protein and cell death. So there seems to be a very specific mechanism of action of volasertib in this disease, and this was demonstrated in vitro studies, but also more convincingly in vivo studies in PDX models. And what was really interesting it was clear that volasertib had a strong anti-cancer effect as a single agent in rhabdomyosarcoma PDX models, but it had a much stronger effect in combination with vincristine. There seems to be a very strong synergy between vincristine, which is a well-known cancer drug used for many years, and drug is already in the standard of treatment for rhabdomyosarcoma. And this combination is interesting, this synergy is interesting because it raises the possibility that the two drugs could be used in combinations in the clinic and possibly reducing the doses of each drug. And this is exactly the idea that we have in mind. We are supported by the pediatric oncology community. I have to tell you, they're really very excited about taking volasertib to the clinic. It has been described by one member of the ITC as the best potential drug they've seen in decades for rhabdomyosarcoma. So there really does a strong push to get this drug into the clinic, and this is really the plan. We're planning to collaborate with the University of Birmingham in the UK. They have just opened a big umbrella trial for rhabdomyosarcoma. This is open in the UK right now, but it will expand to Europe. Ideally, it should involve at least 20 sites across 5 different European countries, and possibly include North America and Canada going forward. And this is an investigator-sponsored trial, but the idea would be to open, because they are planning to test different protocols. It's a big umbrella trial, but we have the plan to make an amendment to this trial and open a specific volasertib arm. This volasertib arm would be a phase 1b/phase 2, because then, as I said, even though we have phase 1 pediatric data as a single agent, we would like to evaluate volasertib in combination with vincristine. So we envisage sort of limited phase 1b setting involving 20-30 patients that could rapidly expand into a phase 2 setting where we hope to see some signs of activity of the two drugs in combination. As we do not expect vincristine to be effective alone, so the effect will be given by, if it's seen, if it's observed, this should be attributed to volasertib alone. And so we are really very excited about starting this trial because if we see some signs, some signals, then we could quickly expand to a phase 2b that potentially could be a registration trial for this drug on the basis of the data that are being already collected and the fact that it's a rare disease. And so we are still hoping to start the trial this year. If not, it will be next year. And so this is a kind of maybe wishful thinking, so the timeline, the optimistic timeline, but we think it's also, it's reasonable as well on the basis of discussion we had with key opinion leaders. So we are really hoping to take volasertib to the clinic as quickly as possible. We had some very interesting, important milestones for the drug. We've been awarded the orphan drug designation and the rare pediatric designation by the FDA. So we should be able to take advantage of the accelerated pathway to registration that are given by these incentives. And of course, with a rare pediatric designation, upon approval, we would be eligible for a FDA priority review voucher that obviously has a financial value for a company like us. With the drug discovery project that I mentioned before, whereas this is, so far I discussed about the volasertib, the drug that we in-licensed, we also developing our own IP. We started a drug discovery project 2 years ago. The project is called 2-HEAT, and the name comes from the fact that essentially we would like to identify 2 or more pathways that, when simultaneously inhibited, give a much stronger effect in medulloblastoma. Clearly, we don't believe in single agents in oncology. We think that we can really have a much stronger cancer effect when you identify the synthetic lethality combination using 2 or more drugs. And we're really working to identify novel combinations. of existing drugs to start with, and we hope that this could be, once we validate the system, then this can serve as a basis for a drug discovery program. We've been getting very interesting data and really hoping that we could be in a position to have a preclinical candidate by well, I wouldn't say by Q1, but let's say probably Q4 as we speak now, 2021. And one important thing is that we have our own strong expertise in cell-based assay. Our drug discovery, head of drug discovery, has more than 20 years experience in a biotech sector, setting up screening platforms. But we also want to collaborate with technology providers. We collaborate with artificial intelligence companies, systems biology companies, and so therefore I'm really interested to talk about possible partnership with collaborators out there that have interesting technologies that could really help us speed up this drug discovery project, and also we are planning to set up to start new projects as well as in licensing more candidates. And this is really the goal of the company, because as of now we have volasertib as the only asset on top of the 2-hit project, which is still a drug discovery project, but we're really actively looking for in licensing other compounds. So we are talking to a lot of companies. We started due diligence with some of them. We are rather agnostic in terms of the technology. We'll probably stay away from cell therapies, for example, vaccines. We would rather concentrate on small molecules and antibodies, antibody drug conjugates. But we're really interested in finding licensing opportunities, because the goal of the company, we're not a one-product company. We want to build a pipeline of opportunities, some closer to the clinic, some early stage, and this is really what we're working on. And alongside the 2-hit medulloblasoma project, we are starting 2 new collaborations with technology companies. One will be on NMYC inhibitor. NMYC is a transcription factor which is really very relevant in pediatric cancer, but again, a very difficult protein to target. And also we are discussing with an artificial intelligence company about starting a new drug discovery project using their technology. So today, but also after the conference, I'm really very much looking forward to talk to companies that may be interested in collaborating with us at different levels. So that's one of the goals of me participating at this conference. So we think that we have the right cocktail, so to speak, for pediatric oncology drug discovery and development. We have a strong leadership, we're mission driven, and really we have a strategy for de-risking our pipeline building, and we have very strong connections with the pediatric oncology ecosystem. And so that's the end of my presentation. And so I'll be happy to take questions or follow up afterwards. You can see the email on the slide, so people should feel free to contact me afterwards if you don't have questions now. And I guess I can stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Cesar, for your wonderful presentation. And I think this is going to be very much knowledgeable and presentation for my attendees. And thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being a great keynote speaker. So, Cesar, after that, you have my client wants to meet with you, so you need to go in a session room.